background, Professor Ram is the Associate Professor of Finance and is the Senior Associate Dean Academic Programs at ISB. He holds a PhD in Finance and Mathematics from Indiana University, MS Statistics from University of South Carolina, and BE from Gulati. So big round of applause and let's welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let's make this. I mean, this is the largest crowd I've been doing this. I think this is the third year I'm doing this. We usually have only about 8-10 people, so I think this is a larger crowd than usual, which is good. I don't like my sessions to be one way, right? I've been teaching for more than 20 years and I'm bored of my voice. So I want this to be a dialogue and an interactive session. So feel free. I will ask you questions. But you also feel free to jump in with questions, ask clarifications, take points. Please do. There are very senior entrepreneurs, so I'm sure there's some of these things they can teach you better. They've been kind enough to invite me. So I'll do my best to keep the session engaging. So I have to about 4 or how long do I do? So let's keep it interactive, jump in with questions. I'll also ask you questions so you don't fall asleep. It's Sunday afternoon. All of us are usually just used to it afternoon siesta on Sunday, right? So I try my best to keep it as interesting as possible. Right, so just kind of briefly about some basics about finance. I'm sure you've done some courses, but maybe in a sense tie stuff together, right? So look at revenues and expenses, right? How you go about thinking about revenues and expenses. Raising money. With startups, it's always a challenge as to how you go raise money. But unfortunately, without any money, you can't start a business. So how do you think about raising business? Raising finance? Where are you likely to go and get money to fund your business? And then once you start running the business, any business needs to have a feedback mechanism, right? Are you doing well? How well are you doing? Where are you doing badly? How badly are you doing? Right? So there always has to be what we say performance evaluation. You need some kind of a feedback mechanism to figure out are you doing well on different financial metrics. Right? So a little bit about that. I actually found a nice video, about a 5-minute video on YouTube. I'll play that. That will be useful. And pitching your idea, I'm sure you've heard this a lot, but just some thoughts that I've picked up over the years. So I have 1 or 2 slides on how you go about pitching your idea. Right? So that's kind of the agenda for the next hour and a little over an hour. So what is the most important thing for any business?
Revenue.
Finance.
Revenue.
Basically, you want to make money, right? You cannot survive as a business without money. And think of what has happened to Jet Airways, right? They just ran out of cash. Period, right? They were still viable business. They had tons of routes that they were running full flights, but they just ran out of cash. Right? So if you're not making money, and if you look at Jet Airways financials going back 10 years, in the last 10 years, I think they had only 1 or 2 profitable years. Right? So the whole idea is you need to make money to survive. If you're not making money as a business, you're not going to be able to survive. However, there are challenges. With startups, you should not expect to make money immediately. It's going to take some time for you to make money, be profitable, and being able to plow that money back into the company. Right? So that is going to take a little while. But any objective, right? Beyond the fact that hey, I'm passionate about this idea or I'm passionate about this business, that is of course one. But to survive as a business, you must be making money. otherwise you're not going to be able to continue running the business. Right, so single most important equation for any business is profit. Profit is nothing but revenues minus expenses, right? So that is in a way that's the whole, right? Going back to the previous objective, making money comes from profit, right? And basically revenues is nothing but you're making how much money do you make minus how much money do you spend, right? So that is the whole idea of the money, of the survival of the business. Right, so what are some common sources of revenues for a company? And I have a bunch. So one is, of course, you are in a particular business or service or app for a primary product or service. Right? So that is going to be the one main source of any business. And I think any business, if they are not, the majority of the revenues are not coming from the primary product or service that they are providing, they are in very deep trouble. Right? Just 2 weeks ago, I was teaching in the healthcare program, and we were looking at some of the financials of a healthcare company. We found that the majority of the revenues for the healthcare company was from other sources of income or other types of income. Right? So that's a place you don't want to be as a business, right? But that is for more mature businesses. If you say that my income from interest is greater than my operating revenues, then the company is in very serious trouble. Right? The majority of your revenue must always come from your primary product or services. There may be other secondary ways of generating revenues, but they have to be relatively smaller fraction. And this is one example I always give. Saying that if your company is going to give a return of, let's say, if as an investor you promise me 7% return or 6% return, I say, why should I invest with you? I can get the same amount of return by putting my money in the FD. Right? So the point is you have to promise something more than what the company what a bank is giving me as an investor, right? Because this is the whole idea of opportunity cost. I don't know if you heard the term opportunity cost. The whole thing is, what am I giving up as a return to give my money to you as an investor? That is your opportunity cost. Right? So the whole idea is, you need to give me something more than what the bank is giving me. You're saying, I'm going to give you 6% return, and so why should I give my money? SBI is giving me 6% return. So you always have to incentivize people, and usually incentivization is going to come from the fact that you have something more value add over and above what the banks are giving you as a rate of return. Right? So the whole idea is you have to generate a majority of your revenues from products and services. Any other ideas, thoughts on what other sources of revenue a business can have? Beyond just providing services or product, whatever their primary business is. What? Advertising, yeah. So if you're running some kind of a web portal, right? Then you say, I have all these banner ads I can sell, right? And Facebook, Google, all of these guys generate a lot of revenue through advertisements, right? So advertisements is one, definitely. Anything else you can think of?
Sponsors.
Sponsors, in what sense? Is it a source of revenue? Sponsors are usually, I don't know, the way I look at it, sponsors you usually get when you're running a specific event. Companies will sponsor. It will be an expense, not a revenue. I don't know if you have something else in mind.
If somebody is like giving us money for sponsoring it.
Yeah, but for a business, what do they sponsor? Why would I give money to a business to sponsor one? I don't know, I'm asking you. I genuinely don't know what you have. Just trying to get clarification on what you mean.
If we are having an event and we need money, so we approach a sponsor that we will.
But is that a revenue for a business?
Then it will become an liability.
It will become an expense, right? It's a cost for the company. The company is going to expend money on sponsoring.
It can be investment returns also. Like
yeah, investment returns, that's what. But yeah, sure, interest income. You put your money in some FDs, right? Maybe you put it in some mutual funds. You get some return from that. Sure. Anything else you can think of?
Licensing
Licensing,
and
franchising, brand merchandising, right? If you think of all your F1, your English Premier League teams, they get a large amount of revenue from merchandising, right? Wearing all those jerseys of the different players, right? Having all this co-branding, right? I think iPhone had it, right? With Ferrari. Some phone company had tied up with Ferrari. And so all of this branding, merchandising, right? That's for. But for that, you need to be an established brand. You're not going to be a startup and say, hey, I'm going to do branding for Nobody knows your brand, so nobody is going to pay a premium for a brand. But those are for more established companies, right? Anything else you can think of? I have about 7 or 8 out here. I don't even remember what these are, so I'm asking you and then we show if we can reveal what those others are and we can talk. Okay, let's see. Advertising, right? Somebody mentioned advertising, ad space on web pages, right? If it's an app, you have ads that come up in the app, right? Lease or rental income from idle real estate. If you have some real estate, you rent it out to somebody, you get some kind of an income from that. Investment income from holding shares, debentures, interest income from savings accounts, fixed deposits, right? You have some amount of money invested in that. Just like I said, merchandising of products, selling clothes and other products with the business's logo or brand. Like I said, you need to be a well-established, recognized brand. Otherwise, nobody is going to be willing to pay like large amount of money to buy a branded products. Right? Royalties, right? Royalties from patents or other intellectual property held by the business. That could be a substantial source of revenue for businesses, but then for that you need to have patented your whatever product or service, or you need to have some unique intellectual property that is trademarked or copyrighted. Right? So those can generate potential royalties. But again, these are all, the way I look at it, these are all going to be much later stage in a company. Right? You need to be a very established company, generated a lot of intellectual property, created a huge brand for yourself. So these are going to be maybe much later in a business's life cycle. But in the early part of the life cycle of a business, I can imagine at least 1, 2, and 4 will definitely be there. Right? Maybe 4, not much, at least a little bit you'll be getting. But I would imagine 1, and if it's like an app or a web page, 2 can also be pretty substantial. Right, so these are, and I think there's one more out here. Yeah, so entry charges from promotional events, right? You're doing some promotional event where you're kind of showcasing your product or service. You kind of charge people for walking into the door. And again, this is not an exhaustive list, right? So just kind of give you some idea of what are typical sources of revenue for a business. What are common sources of expenditures, right? Again, I'm putting up 2. I think I have about 13 or 14 on this slide. Right? Employee benefits is going to be one of the biggest expenditure, especially in the service industry. Savings, insurance, transportation, other types of benefits for your employees. Raw materials, if you're in the manufacturing, some kind of manufacturing line. So those are a couple of expenditures. Anything else you can think of?
Rentals.
So yeah, rentals.
Advertising yourself.
Advertising your own product, sure. Rentals.
Compliances.
Compliances, you need to be paying auditors and maybe
Interest.
lawyers. Logistics, supply chain, yeah. You need to pay that. Then maybe gets partly captured in raw material, your supply chain.
Interest.
Replacement product defects, yeah. Maybe you have to do a recall and fix, or if there's a bug in your app or something, you need to spend some money.
Interest to attract customers.
Marketing costs, right? How customer acquisition costs, especially very early on in the life cycle of a startup, you're going to have significant amount of money being spent on customer acquisition costs. Sure.
Interest cost.
Time.
What?
Travels.
Travels, yeah. What travel times? Sure. If you're going to be traveling, making sales pitches to customers across the country, maybe across the world. You have travel accommodation costs.
If you are making a website, then website development costs.
Web development and web maintenance costs. Right? I think that is a given. Almost every business, regardless of whether you are a service business or a product business, everybody has a website. So website development and website maintenance fees. Infrastructure costs, sure. Putting up like plant, property, machinery, kind of sure. Right? So yeah, fair enough. I think that captures most R&D. Right? You may have to spend some money on R&D, especially if you have something in some place like in the pharma or the healthcare space. You're trying to develop new medicines, right? So then you're going to be spending substantial amount of money in R&D. Right? Even all the tech firms, they do spend a lot of money on R&D. Right? Even your Google and your Facebook and your Apple and all spend a lot of money on R&D. Right? So that can be pretty substantial costs. Taxes, of course, you can't avoid it. Government always likes to take a piece of every pie that we earn. Marketing, sponsorship, advertising, right? Somebody mentioned this. Depreciation is going to be an expenditure, right? You have a bunch of fixed assets whose value is going to be going down over time because of wear and tear use of the fixed assets. So then you're going to have a depreciation that is also going to be subtracted out of your P&L statement. Right? I'm hoping you know you're comfortable with P&L statement and balance sheet. Yes. Most of you, okay, good. Right, so the whole idea is depreciation is what we say is a non-cash expense. You're not paying the depreciation to anyone, but it is still subtracted out of your P&L statement as though we were paying it to someone. Maintenance and rental costs, right? Again, all of these were legal costs, right? Just want to make sure that you have a lawyer who's drawing up contracts, who's looking at regulations, who's advising you. So legal costs can be pretty substantial because the point is you make, as a business, even at a startup level, you want to make sure that your contracts are very clear, well laid out. Right? You don't want to get into a situation where you start a business, you just don't worry about your contracts and your signing contracts without looking through them, understanding them, making sure that your rights and responsibilities are protected. Right? So you should always have a lawyer who's advising you, going through the contracts you're entering to ensure that your interests are protected. Right? So that is another, that doesn't matter what stage of the company's life cycle you are, that is I think an important thing to keep an eye on. Right? Even if you're getting into angel financing, VCP, right? And you will be signing contracts. And these contracts can be, in some cases, very, very long. And it's going to be a lot of this legal language, which frankly I don't understand at all. I sign contracts on behalf of ISB, maybe one every week. I don't understand these contracts. So it's a very technical legal language. So it's always better to have like lawyers who are coming in and like advising you, yeah, this is good. These are potential problems for you, so you need to negotiate and fix these issues. So it's always good to have a lawyer, but then the downside is lawyers are expensive, so the cost can be a little steep. Cost paid to banks, brokerages, financial institutions, including insurance premiums, right? Any insurance you're getting. I'm not only talking about health insurance, right? It could be accident insurance, it could be, if you're running a hospital, for example, you need to have malpractice insurance, right? So there are various forms of insurance. Depending on the applicability of the insurance to your particular business, you need to make sure that you have some kind of coverage. Interest on loans, you've taken out, if you've borrowed any money, you're going to be paying some interest on it periodically, so that is also part of your expenditure. CSR activities, these days it's mandated, again, not for a startup, but a lot of companies have to pay 2% of their after-tax profits as towards CSR activities. Right, so these are important things. You don't have to write or take photos, don't worry. I'll share the entire slide deck. I'll share it with Devendra and you can share it with all of you. Right? There's nothing proprietary about this. It's all things that I've learned from my so many years of teaching and reading stuff. Royalties paid to other businesses. If you're using somebody else's IP, then you have to pay royalties. Right? If you're using somebody else's patent, trademark, whatever it is, you need to pay them royalties. Payments to other service providers, right? Maybe you have hired some housekeeping service or something. You're paying other service providers to the company. Right? So broadly, again, all these are not exhaustive lists, but these are typical types of revenues and expenditure. Most companies, regardless of whether they are early startups or very established businesses, you're all going to be incurring these kind of expenditures. Any questions or comments, thoughts? Right, so that is revenues and expenditures. Again, revenues greater than expenditures, your company is going to make a profit. Expenses are going, if they are greater than, you're going to make a loss. So the whole idea is basically company has to focus on increasing revenues and at the same time decreasing expenses if they want to go out and make profits. Right? So that is again, if you look at it from the life cycle of a company's perspective. Once you become a very established company, you can, your growth is there, but growth is going to be very minimal. You're going to have growth of maybe 2-3%, 5%. Once you become a very big established company. So that's what when you see large companies, the one big way in which they increase their profits is they cut down costs. Right? So that's one of the things, right? You will see that the focus will not be on increasing revenues for big companies, the focus is always going to be on cutting costs. Right? Whereas in the early stage also you need to keep your costs down, right? Because you need cash. Right? You put in some money from various sources, regardless of how you raise money. Focus is going to be on revenues and you may be burning cash. Right? But still you need to keep your costs down. Right? You can't have your expenditures be very high when at a startup stage, because then you're burning cash. However, if you have a generous VC or PUs funding you, maybe it's okay to burn cash, which is what you are learning from all your Ubers and Olas of the world, where they burn, right? All these cutting down costs, we give you discount, this, that. It's all basically about burning VC cash. Right? So the question is, expenditures, keeping your expenditures down is always important, regardless of whether you're a small startup or a large established company. Right? So that is the only way, that is one of the primary ways in which you're going to be generating profits. Right? Revenues, when you're in aggressive growth stage, once you've got a decent entry into the market, people have said, okay, this is an interesting product or service, then you're going on an aggressive growth path. Right? So that is your aggressive, you're going from a startup to like your VC financing and beyond, and even going public. Right? So that is going to be an aggressive revenue part. But early on, you're going to need to focus on costs. And later on in life, once you establish your company, then again, costs start becoming important. Right? So do we know the future? Like remember, when you're making these projections, right, you're looking at what are my revenues, what are my costs. What we talk about in the balance sheet and the P&L statement, this is not history. What has happened in the past. But when you're a startup, you don't have any past. When you're new, you have a fresh idea of a product or service, so you have absolutely nothing to show in terms of revenues or costs. So you need to come up with forward-looking expenditures and revenue. So you need to start working on making projections. So what do you mean by projections? Basically, one way to look at it is you just project what your balance sheet is going to look like, what your P&L statement is going to look like for the next 3 to 5 years. And so you need to make projections, and we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about how do you make these projections. Right? So you don't know the revenues, expenses today, so what do? Make projections for the foreseeable future, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, these are rules of thumb. Figure out what is an appropriate timeline you should be looking at. Right? 10 years might be too long for a startup, maybe 3 to 5 years is a more reasonable way of looking at the growth of the startup. Right? So how do you go about it? Right? So the primary thing is to figure out the revenue. Right? Once you know what your revenues are going to be and what your revenue growth is going to be, rest of the things will fall in place a little easier. Right? So the revenue part is, in my mind, is the most difficult to project. Because you remember, this is all forward looking, and you have a brand new product, you have no idea about, well, is this product or service or app, whatever it is it going to take off? Right? Think of what happened, right? And back in 2002 or 2003, when Steve Jobs came out with iPod. I don't know if you know iPod, but you may be too young to even know that iPods. But the whole idea is he came 2002 or 3, he came out with iPods, right? At that time, the market even didn't know that they wanted an iPod. Right? So think about how Apple would have done the financial projections. They have no idea that whether people will like it, dislike it, right? Will pick it up, or even iPhone. Right? They came out with iPhone in 2007. Okay? People never even knew that, oh, there is, imagine the possibility of something like a smartphone. And so projections can become very difficult, especially if you are introducing something that's brand new to the market. That the market itself doesn't know that such things are possible. They're not being able to imagine the need for such products. And I think that, in my personal view, that is what made Apple, right, the iPod to the iPhone to the iPad, they were all extremely unique products. The market itself hadn't imagined these possibilities. So there's no way to kind of go out and make your predictions. But the point is, okay, they're an established company, established brand, but you're a startup. You still need to figure out some way of projecting your revenue. Right? So how do you go about projecting the revenues? Have an understanding of the market for the product or service you're going to be providing. Get a sense of how large is this market. Right? How many, right? How large can you tap into? Is it going to be only one type of customers, or is it going to be broadly the entire market and the entire population? How many people are going to be using your product or service? Right? Or is it going to be, like you're saying, sports psychologists, right? Am I going to be targeting, my target market is going to be only sports, people who are into sports. Right? So get a sense, how many sports, how many kids, how many seniors are into sports. So what is my target audience? What is my target market for? Okay, so that would be your first market sizing. How large is my market going to be? Right? So who is your target segment? Who are your potential competitors? This is very important. You need to know who your competitors are. Is there somebody else who's already providing a similar product or service? Because there has to be differentiation. You can't just say that that person is doing it, I'm doing the exact same thing. Right? Anytime you're trying to introduce something new, there has to be something different about the product or service that you're providing. That is, without differentiation, your product or service is not going to take not going to take off because there's already somebody. And in economics, we always talk about this idea of first mover advantage. Whoever comes first into the market is always going to have it's going to be easier for them to maintain the market, get the market share. Right? It even becomes a brand. Right? Think about, we say, oh, ek Xerox copy le lo. Xerox is actually the name of the company. The actual word for that is photostat copy. Right? So the point is, the first mover advantage is a lot of times it becomes synonymous with the product or the services. Right? Even today, we don't say, oh, search online. Too many words. We just say Google. Even though Google was not the first company, I'm old enough to know what are the first. Google was maybe the third or fourth or fifth search engine. There was something called Lycos, Alta Vista. Right? So, point is, your product or service, if you're a first mover, could potentially become like synonymous with the product or service itself. So you need to have some idea of who your competition is. And even if there is a competition, what are you providing different, better, right? Not just different, but something better than your competitor. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to kind of break into the segment. Right? So it's very important. I think, in my mind, that is one of the most important things that will decide the success of your business. Figuring out what is my competition, how am I doing things different. Right? So that is, and again, go back to iPhone, right? iPhone is very, very popular. Why? Because even though we have all these different companies that provide the same kind of smartphone, it's just that iPhone had this really cool, the real cool factor, which none of the other smartphones have been able to mimic or copy or replicate. And so still it's everybody's aspiration is to buy an iPhone. iPhone. Right? So the point is we need to differentiate. We need to show something that is better. Right? Even tablets, iPad, right? All the other companies tried to bring in tablets. None of them took off. Right? So you need to have something that is superiorly different, not just different. Just different is not going to help. It has to be different in a superior way. And that is what, I think that is also going to help you with figuring out how do I pitch my product or how do I pitch my app or my service. Right? Without this differentiation, nothing is going to work. Right? So it is important to figure out who your potential competitors are and what are you doing better than your competitors. And then what is their share of the market? Right? So if they are if they're an existing competitor, how much of the market do they control? Is it 20%? Is it 40%? Is it 80%? Right? So it is, and over what time have they captured that share? Have they been around for 5 years and have they grown like 20% every year? Have they grown like 10%? Right? So to kind of understand their growth story is important to figure out what your growth story. At least it's not a guarantee that your growth story is going to be exactly the same, but it will give you some idea of what your growth story is likely to be if you do things right. Right? So that's the way to be looking at your that's the reason to be looking at the market share, right? And then how much market share do you foresee grabbing and how will this grow over time? And that will basically help you figure out what your revenue projections are going to be. And how much of that market can I capture realistically? Again, there's no guarantee. You may say I can capture 5% every year. Will it actually be 5%? No. It may be 8%, it may be 2%. We don't know. All you need to do is come up with some reasonable gut estimates of what your projections are going to be. And that is not just randomly picking out numbers out of a hat, but kind of thinking, looking at what other competitors have grown, look at the market, how is the segment changing, what are the challenges, and then it's not an easy task. But the point is you need to get some idea of what your revenue, what your market share is going to be in its foreseeable future, and that will help you figure out what your revenue projections are going to be. Any questions? Right? So this is very critical part, right? If you do not expect significant growth in the market share, there is no point in launching your product or service, right? Maybe it's too categorical a statement, but the whole idea is you have to have a reasonable amount of growth. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult for you to maintain the profitability and generate cash from your revenue. projecting, once you figure out the revenues, the expenses are a little easier to project, right? Not relatively easier, right? Because one is salary. Salary, you have some sense of how much do I pay people. If I need a programmer, if I need a web developer, these are easily available numbers, right? So these are not too difficult. Salaries can be easily determined. Suppliers, cost of, if you're acquiring any raw materials, what are those costs? Those are all you can figure out. Those are easier things to measure. You can then, the growth in those numbers may be a little more difficult, but you usually kind of say, well, it grows at inflation rate. There's one assumption people make quite frequently. Right? But so the projection of the expenditures are going to be far more easier. The projection of the revenue that needs a lot of work and understanding the market, the segment, the competition, right, and the market share, right? How much must you spend to rent, or if you're buying real estate, how much are you going to be spending? And so these are all relatively, in my mind, it's much easier to, right? And usually you kind of tie your expenditures to revenues when you're making these projections, right? For example, you can say my expenses are going to be 60% of revenues, especially if you're looking at variable costs, you can say my variable costs are going to be 60% of revenues, right? So that is one way in which, that's what I said, it's more difficult to project your revenues, but once you have a revenues projected, then the expenditures are going to be relatively easier to project, because you're just tying a lot of your expenditure to the revenues that are generating from your business. Right, so that's broadly about looking at revenues and expenditure. Right, so the financing part, right? So to make money, primary objective of any company, you actually need money, right? Once you have money, can you generate money? You can't create money out of nothing, right? Unless you have a printing press where you're printing currency, you're not going to need. Even that would need some amount of money, but you cannot generate money out of nothing. You need money to create money. You need some amount of money to create wealth. Right? So what are various sources of financing or funding, especially for startups? Right? So just go through some sequence, right? But this one thing, and I think last year when we had the TYE conference here, I think I was on a panel saying bank financing for startups. So I was on the panel, so I said, well, it's very difficult to get bank financing for startups. Right? Because everybody thinks banks have a lot of money. Why are they not lending money to startups? When you just have an idea, no bank is going to give you money. You can't just walk up to the bank and say, hey, I have this idea, can you give me a loan to finance my business? That is not happening. Right? Because banks also, what are they doing? They're giving you money with a reasonable hope or expectation that they're going to get their principal loan amount back and the interest payment, like your monthly EMIs are made on time. Right? And that they're not going to be certain that you're going to be able to pay the EMI unless you have shown some revenues. You just have an idea, you haven't shown that the people even like your idea, that the market likes your idea. Okay, so that's why banks will never fund you only at an idea stage, right? They may be willing, but they'll say, I'll charge you 200% interest. The question is it worth the cost? Okay? So banks will almost never fund only an idea. You need to show at least some revenue growth, market share growth, before they say, okay, I'm willing to give you some loan. Because remember, when interest rates that bank charge on loans is tied to the what? Interest rate that banks charge on loans is tied to what? Risk. It's tied to the risk of the loan. Right? Differently, you can't say that my friend went and he or she got like a 10% interest rate. I go to the bank is charging me 14% interest rate. You can't say that that is unfair. The bank would have done its analysis and say, my loan is riskier. So that's just saying, hey, I'm going to charge you 14% because there's a less likelihood that I am going to repay than my friend. Right? So it's not a mindset shouldn't be that, oh, it's 10%, everybody should get 10%. Banks will give you loans at rates depending on the riskiness of the loan. What is the likelihood that you're going to make all the payments on time? Right? So that is related to the viability of your business. If the bank feels that you already have a reasonably viable business, reasonable amount of revenues coming in, then they will charge you, and that those revenues seem fairly stable and likely to grow, then they'll charge you a lower interest rate. However, the bank feels that you still haven't proven proof of concept or that the product will take off, they will charge you a higher rate. Right? So always risk and return, and this is something that every time I teach at ISB across some programs, I talk about risk and return. I said they always go hand in hand, and it's the same for the bank also. Right? So you can't go to the bank and make an argument. You're charging my friend a lower rate. Why are you charging me a higher interest rate? They're charging you a higher interest rate because they perceive you as a riskier borrower. That is less likely to repay the principal and interest, or less likely to pay EMI payments. Right? So you can never disentangle the two. Right? Risk return in finance always goes hand in hand. Right? Whenever you see higher return, it automatically implies that risk is high. Right? You can never say that I will guarantee you 20% return. Impossible to do. The only guaranteed rate today for us as individual investors or individuals is basically your SBI FD rate. That's the only thing that is guaranteed, which is about 6 to 6.5%. Anything about that you cannot guarantee. So somebody, that's what I tell my students at ISB when I teach them. I said, anybody comes to you and say, I guarantee you a 20% return. Give me so much, give me 1 lakh or 2 lakhs, I guarantee you doubling it in 1 year or 2 years, or guarantee giving you 20% return. I said, your first reaction should be to walk to the nearest police station and file an FIR against this person, because that person is out to swindle your money. Because you cannot guarantee, right? Guarantee anything above 6 or 6.5%. And there are a lot of people are falling for this scam, right? I don't know if you've been following the news. 2-3 years ago, in Bangalore, there was this company, Vikram something, financials or something. They promised some 23% returns and they got, I think, 200-300 crores. And amongst the investors, I think, were some relatives of Rahul Dravid, and I think Saina Nehwal herself had invested money. The money was all gone. Right? So the whole idea is you cannot guarantee a return that is greater than the SBI FD. So banks also will, they know that they are lending to you, they perceive you to be a riskier borrower, they will charge you a higher interest rate. But they're never going to fund only or extend a loan to somebody who's got only an idea. You have to show revenues, you have to show proof of concept that at least there is a part of the market that likes your product or service and is willing to pay for it. Right, so extremely early stage financing from banks is going to be practically important. Right, so typically how do you start raising money for your business? It's usually through self-funding, what we say bootstrapping. Right, so you need to put your own money. And that's what we say in English, put your money where your mouth is. That is, are you willing to take risk your own money in your business? You can't start a business and say, I'm not putting any money of my own. I'm going to ask my friends and others, banks and other people to put their money in. Nobody will give you money. If you are not invested financially in your business, you may have the passion, you may say, I love this idea, I think it's going to do great. Maybe some sustainable initiative, you say, I'm worried about the environment and my business is going to solve this problem in the environment. People will say, okay, so how much of your own money have you put? You say nothing. They say, okay, then I can't trust you. But if you are really passionate and you believe in your idea, you have to put your own money in the business. And when I say business, you can't just take 10 rupees. It has to be a substantial amount of money of your own money that you put before you can even reach out to others saying that you are running a business, you need to raise financing. So the first step is always bootstrapping. This includes money from family and friends, but you must put substantial amount of money from your own pocket before even you go to family or friends. Maybe your parents are like, acha beta le lo, paisa le lo, but going through chacha, tauji and all is going to be a lot more difficult, convincing them that it's there, you are willing to take the risk. Right? You need to take the risk yourself before you ask others to risk their money in your business. Right? So that is always, any business starting up, you must, the bootstrapping is almost like you have to do it, otherwise nobody is going to give you money. So it's easy to raise also, since you are reaching out to your network, your own money. So this is easier to raise. Second is crowdfunding. This is kind of gaining a lot of popularity in the last maybe 5 to 10 years. There are a number of websites, like in India we have Indiegogo, Wishberry, Keto, Fundline, Catapult, right? So these are all websites where you put up your business plan. Right? You post what your business plan is and then say, hey, I need money for this, provide a reason for what the requirement for the money is, how much do you need. Right? What are you going to basically use the money for? And then people will basically and maybe you can even get pre-commitments to buy your products or service. Maybe you still don't have the product or service ready, but you're saying you're getting pre-commitments, people will pay you the money upfront and then you can use that money to build a product or service, right? Especially if it's a product, you may need some money to do the manufacturing and all of that. So you commit, right, and basically you use the money that people provide on these platforms to provide, to fund some of your development of your product or service. And it also provides you some amount of publicity for the product or service that you're developing. And so this is gaining popularity these days. These are just some of these crowdfunding platforms that are popular. Then of course angel investors, they have surplus cash, easy, and they are pretty keen to invest in early stage startups. Usually work in groups and networks. They collectively screen proposals, right? It's their network of people who work together, pool their money. They also offer a lot of mentoring or advice to startups, how to build a business plan, how should you be thinking about growth, where is the money going to come from, right? All of that, they do a lot of hand-holding for the startups, right? But this is usually your next stage, right? You're moving on to angel investors. And after that, you have incubators and accelerators. They provide tools, training, networking to a business. They will not necessarily provide you financial capital to fund your business, but they are more doing a lot of fine-tuning. How should you be pitching your business, giving you access to networks, right? Advising you on how to maybe scale up, how to market your product, right? So all of that is going to be done by incubators and accelerators. And we have the AIC or Data Incubation Center here at ISB, right? So they typically run for 4 to 8 months and require some amount of time commitment from the founders, right? So the founders of the business need to spend some amount of time with these at these incubators and accelerators. And then once you reach,
I have a question. So these incubators, do they charge the younger startups for something, or is it like a...
Usually incubators, they themselves are funded by CSR money or something, right? So incubators, I don't think they, as far as I know, at ISB, I don't think we charge. I think AIC is funded by the government.
By the government,
yeah. So usually incubators are not going to charge money not going to charge startups for services that they provide.
This question is more for the benefit of the young.
Sure. Incubators, they don't. Usually, I know a lot of, like for example, I forget what it is called. So the Bombay Stock Exchange has an incubation cell in their building in Bombay itself. And they provide like a common workplace, pretty thriving. So, I mean, if you want to take these kids on a trip to Bombay, I'm happy to put you in touch with them. I know the people in BSC. So that will be a good place to go see what they do and all of that. I think that it's kind of a very, vibrant place. I went there a couple of times, and I know some of our alums also were there for a while, working, setting up their startups and all of that. So, I mean, if you want to travel,
We'll keep that as a...
let me know. I'm happy to put you in touch with the BSc. But then once you become sufficiently large and you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars size, you need funding, you move on to venture capital, right? So these are professionally managed funds that invest companies that have huge potential. And this is our much later stage, right? You've established a reasonable market, you have reasonable amounts of revenue coming in, right? So the viability of the business has been proven. Market has shown that there is a demand for the product or service that you are providing, right? So this is much later, right? The VCs are not going to look at anything less than $100 million, right? The minimum size at which they are willing to provide is going to be $100 million or more, right? So this is much later stage where you actually kind of really ramping up the growth of your revenues, right? So, and then again, the amount of money that they're going to be investing is much, much larger than what typical angel investors would provide. And then usually VCs would want to exit 5 to maybe 7 years to either being acquired or through what is called an IPO, the initial public offering, where the shares are first sold to the public and then they are listed on the stock exchanges and traded on the stock exchange. Right? So VCs come at a very almost like high growth stage where there is going to be an exit at some point, and typically they want to get out of the business in 5 to 7 years because when the VCs go out and raise money from their investors, they promise a 5 to 7 year exit, right? They're telling their investors that we will pay you back your money in about 5 to 7 years, right? That is the typical timelines that they look at. So this is coming at a much later stage, but the amount of money that they provide is also very large. And then you have within VC itself, we have Series A, Series B, Series C, and everything is just a larger amount. Every stage is just a larger amount of money being provided by these VCs. You could also, I should also mention, I should actually have a bullet point on PE also, private equity also. Private equity also comes at a later stage, much later than even VC. You would have PE firms coming in just before you go into an IPO, right? Just before the VC exit stage, you have a bunch of private equity money also likely coming into the company. So that is another stage in which, through which companies can raise capital. Right, loans, like I said, very difficult, but you can have loans from banks, NBFCs, microfinance providers. But yeah, it is just the default risk promise of making these EMIs is very high, right? So loans will come much later, right? Maybe when you're getting into VC funding, at that time you might actually be able to go ahead and borrow some money, right? So only at a very later stage, right? I don't think any of these stages you will be able to borrow money. Right? Only when you're getting to this stage, step 5, are you likely to be able to get loans from various places, right? And then the government may also provide startup capital in specific areas or for specific sectors, right? So the Pradhan Mantri Micro Units Development and Refinance Agency provides loan capital if your business plan is approved. So this is a loan, but yeah, I think it is up to 1 crore. If I remember right, it's up to 1 crore in value. But yeah, so this is an exception where early stage startups can also get go out and get loan money, but this is coming from the government, right? So that is largely what the sources of funding for startups look like, and on a life cycle basis. From idea to exit stage, how do companies go out and raise capital? Any questions? These are very quiet. And then winning competitions, this is more like, yeah, if you're lucky, then that's fine. Participate in competitions that require to develop a certain type of product or business plan or service. It gives your business some amount of visibility, but yeah, these competitions are not going to provide too much capital. They're not going to give you like 5 crores or 10 crores. Right? It might be a few lakhs, tens of lakhs at least. Right, so those are basically ways in which you raise money. Then the whole idea is once you start your business, you must constantly measure its performance. Right? How are you doing excuse me. How are you performing along various key metrics? Right? So that is very important because you need to constantly be getting feedback and do course correction. What am I doing well? Where do I need to improve? What am I actually outrightly doing bad? Right? So you constantly need feedback, right? And that is the fact of life. Every stage in anywhere in life, there always has to be feedback to figure out, are you doing things well? Are you doing things badly? What can you do better? Right? So the whole question is, how do you measure performance, right? Key metrics basically are a way for you to help your business stay on track and in a way measure its success or its failure, right? Maybe I need to say measure its success or failure, right? Both could be happening. Right, so these are also known as KPIs or key performance indicators. I'm going to show you a video from YouTube, but some terminologies from that YouTube video before we see the video. Right, you need to have a CRM software usually, or nowadays it's actually become a software. Right, so customer relationship manager is basically a software you use to track all your interactions with your clients, right? Every single meeting, anything you're talking to your client, it goes into a CRM. So there is data of what is happening at the company, because not everything will be not the same. It's not likely that the same person is going and meeting all the clients. It's going to be different people, maybe meeting different clients. But then there has to be one aggregation of all the information that is coming from the clients, right? So the CRM is becoming very important, and these days with technology, there are so many softwares which will then help you analyze the data. Right? So given analytics is becoming very big these days, CRM software is very helpful because it helps you kind of organize your interactions with different clients. Maybe some clients are happy with your product, some clients are not. Is there any specific reason why some clients are unhappy and others are not, right? Is it because of some geographical reasons that people maybe in the Tri-City area are happy, but people in Delhi are not happy? Is it some distance? Is it something to do with the distance or the proximity to your clients, right? So putting all of these interactions into a CRM will help you better kind of tease out the data, tease out the patterns to understand what are the issues that your clients are or customers are facing, right? So this is what a CRM is. Project plan is basically a plan that outlines what you're working on in your company, right? Basically, you're talking about your project plan or a business plan, and these are just terminologies in the video, right? P&L, profit loss statement or sheet shows you how much money you make based on your expenses and revenue. Target is the goals you have for the number of customers, sales, and other key metrics. You'll see some examples in the video. Dashboard is basically graphs and charts you use to display your key metrics, right? So again, because of all this developments in technology, a lot of these things can nicely visually be seen through nice graphics and tables. So then you have nicer ways of summarizing all the data you're collecting as a business, right? So I will show you this video, right? This is I think about a 5-minute video. I thought it was kind of useful.
These 4 attributes. And before I talk about those 4 attributes, I just want to say the reason they need to work well for you is because KPIs are the heartbeat of. Hi, my name is Erica Olson. Today's whiteboard video is on key performance indicators, or KPIs for short. KPIs are those things that are associated with either goals or objectives, whatever you're calling them, those elements of your plan that are the expressions of what you want to achieve by when, those quantifiable outcome-based statements. So, KPIs answer the quantifiable piece of your goals and objectives. They come in 3 different flavors, so we'll talk about that in just a minute. But before we do, putting great KPIs together and making sure they work well for you, you need to have these 4 attributes. And before I talk about those 4 attributes, I just want to say the reason they need to work well for you is because KPIs are the heartbeat of your performance management process. They tell you whether you're making progress, and ultimately we want to make progress against our strategy, so KPIs are the thing that do that for us. So you're going to live with them a lot, so let's make sure they're really good. Okay. So the 4 things you need to have in order to make sure your KPIs work for you are, number 1 is your measure. So the measure is the verbal expression, very simply in words, of what are we measuring, which is fairly straightforward. The tricky thing is we need to be as expressive as we possibly can with our measures. So number of new customers, that's fine, there's nothing wrong with that, but a little bit advanced or a little bit more expressive would be number of new customers this year, or number of new customers for a certain product or a certain service. So what is it? Is it, so what is it? So be really clear. And when it comes to measuring it on a monthly basis, you're gonna wanna be as clear as possible. So number of new customers, let's say this year. Number 2 is our target. Our target is the numeric value that we want to achieve. So a couple things that are important about this is the target needs to be apples to apples with when the goal date is set, or the due date is set. So we want to achieve 1,000 new customers by the end of the year. So the due date and the target work hand in hand. The other thing is the measure and the target need to work hand in hand. So it's a number, so this is a number, this is a percentage, this is a percentage. You get the idea. Third thing, we actually want to report on this data, so where it's coming from, be clear about what the source is. Most organizations have all sorts of data sources, fragmented systems, so making sure you identify where this data is coming from will save you a lot of time. And then frequency. So how often are you going to be reporting on this KPI? Ideally, you're running monthly strategy reviews to report on the progress of your plan, at least monthly, in which case we'd like to see monthly KPIs. So you got to be able to pull the data monthly in order to make that happen. That's not always possible, but let's try to get there. Certainly some organizations are weekly and others are daily. Monthly is a good place to start. So frequency. Great. So now we know the components that we need to have in place in order to have our KPIs. Here are some different types of KPIs that you might think about as you're putting your plan together. So there are just straight up raw numbers. I call these widget counting. There's nothing wrong with widget counting. They don't necessarily tell a story, and I'll talk about how to make this tell a story in a minute, but this is just simply widget counting, number of things. The second thing is progress. So this is really often used. It's great. We use this, which is expressed as percent complete of a goal, percent complete of a project, whatever it might be. It's a project type measure. It's a good measure if you don't have quantifiable measures or you can't get the data and you just want to track the performance of the goal as it relates to the action items being completed under it. The third type of indicator is a change type indicator, like percent increase in sales. Making this better would be percent increase in sales compared to last year. And the idea is 22%. So you can see how that starts to be more expressive and work with the target. So this starts to tell a little bit more of a story than this one does, right? And if you want to actually make your widget counting measures tell more of a story, like this one does, you might change something like this to read percentage of new customers acquired compared to same time last year. So that's an example. Okay, so now we know what we have to have in place and kind of different types of measures to get our ideas flowing. Let's talk about one thing that you might take your measure of writing to the next level. And that is, think about the fact that there are leading and lagging measures. So, or leading and lagging indicators. So, percent increase in sales or sales is a lagging indicator. It occurred, it's an outcome. If you want to make sure that you're on track, you might have a KPI in place, which is telling us whether we're going to hit that increase, such as your pipeline, maybe your leads, or the size of your pipeline. So we don't want to over-rotate on this necessarily, but we do want to make sure we have a combination of leading and lagging measures when we're looking at our performance on a monthly basis. So with that, that's all we have for today. Hopefully you have what you need to create KPIs for your organization. Happy strategizing, and don't forget, subscribe to our channel.
Okay, any questions, thoughts, comments? Right, so the whole idea is to kind of get some sense of how you're doing. Right? That's what I said, it's a feedback mechanism. Are you meeting your targets? Right? You wanted, what is the number of new customers you're getting? What was your target? What is the revenue increase? Right? Question is, are you meeting them? If you're meeting them, if you're beating them, that's great, right? But the point is, even if it's great, just saying, hey, I'm beating my expectations much more. The question is, why are you doing that? It's also important to understand that, right? You learn better from failures, but you also learn from successes, right? You shouldn't say, oh, I beat my targets by 50%, so I'm super happy. The question is it a sustainable increase, right? Are you going to be consistently beating your targets by 50% every year? Then you need to push your targets upward. You can't set your target low and say, hey, I'm beating it 50% year on year or quarter on quarter. That's not a good strategy to have, right? So the question is to understand what is working well, and what is working better than expected, and why is it working better than expected, right? So figuring out why are you not meeting expectations, why are you performing worse than expected is then you're obviously learning from that. But you also need to be learning from your successes. What are you doing better? What is really working well? Is this beating your expectations by 50%? Is it just because the economy is doing exceptionally well? Economy goes bad, then this is also going to go away, right? So those kind of learnings should always be there. It's one thing to look at these numbers, but using the numbers to do the learning. What are the successes? Reasons for the success? What are the failures? Reasons for the failures? That is what you should be focusing on, and that is what the feedback mechanism I was telling you about, right? It's always, you need to be saying, it's not that you put everything in place, these people will work on this, these people will work on this, I will work on this, that's it. You must be always continuously learning, and that's what I always say, learning never ends. Even as a professor, I've been at ISB for 13 years, learning never ends. Every day I'm learning new stuff. So as a company also, successful or not, learning should never end. You should always be learning what is happening, right? Keep yourself abreast of developments, technological developments, right? AI and artificial intelligence, machine learning is becoming big. Right? So you always have to make sure that you are aware of what is happening and then trying to tie that, what is happening around you, to the successes and failures of your business is very important. It gives you some perspective of where you're headed. What can you scale up, can you ramp up, you need to change course, right? Or maybe even shut down the company. Sometimes it may break your heart to do it, but maybe you just cut your losses, you know what, I'm going to exit, I'm going to quit my business. Not a bad, instead of just wasting money, right? What we say, putting bad money after, sending good money after bad money, you don't want to do that, right? So you need to have some learning, right? And that's largely going to be driven by these key KPIs. Right, so again, avoid vanity metrics. So what are good KPIs? This is by Eric Schoenfeld, a technology journalist. Vanity metrics are things like registered users, downloads, raw page views. These are easily manipulated and do not necessarily correlate to the numbers that really matter. What are the numbers that really matter? Active users, active customers, clients, engagement, the cost of getting new customers, and ultimately revenues or profits. Right? You can't be saying that I have 10,000 people come to my web page every hour. Right? That is very easy to manipulate. I can send emails to 10 friends and ask them to send emails to 10 of their friends. People will click, the number of page views can be manipulated to be a very high number. Does that actually mean anything? How many of those people are coming to your app or your website and spending substantial amounts of time? That is the important metric to be looking at. Right? So that you need to be careful about these metrics, because some of these metrics can be easily manipulated. Right? So you need to make sure that you're picking out all the relevant, important things, focusing ultimately what matters, revenues and profits. Right? So this is what at the end of the day, this is your absolutely most important KPI. Right? I'm almost done. Right? So pitching your idea, right? I'm sure others can maybe do this better, but I've been presenting this for the last couple of years, so I just talk about this briefly. So the most important step in raising funding is to pitch your idea. Right? Even if you have a great idea, if you will not succeed if you are not able to sell the idea to potential investors. And the same thing, right? Same thing at ISB also we say, right? We have great students who are coming through ISB, but if they are not able to, right? I just got back from Hyderabad yesterday. The batch had their placements in Hyderabad, 900 students last week. So the basic thing we've been telling our students is you may have done academically extremely well, but if you're not able to sell yourself to the recruiter, you're not going to get a job. Same thing applies out here. You may have a great idea, but if you cannot sell it properly, you're not going to get anything. You're not going to get money to fund it. You're not going to get investment. You're not going to get customers who come and buy your service or product. Right? So the whole idea is to make sure that you pitch it well. And the most important thing is people think that they know their business inside out, right? But I may ask you questions and you may be able to answer it. So the point is, it's always important to have a good sales pitch. Right? Just understanding every aspect of your organization is good. It's good at an operational level, but at a sales pitch level, you need to actually pitch your idea well. And you may understand, you may be able to solve every single problem that your business is facing. But if you cannot sell your business idea to investors, you're not going to be able to raise funding. Right? So this is, I forget which website I got this from, but this is on the web, right? Tell a story that made you come up with a product or service, right? In other words, personalize your story. Right? Why did you start thinking about this new business idea, right? can you tell a personal story? Because if you're able to give a personal story, that always connects better. Because people will say, oh, I understand what I also face the same thing, right? So it's always good to personalize your problem, the business problem that you're trying to solve. Because you may never know. The investor on the opposite side may say, oh yeah, I understand exactly what you're telling. I have faced this hundreds of times in my life. And that means you almost got them. They almost understand your business, what you're trying to do, right? So always adding a personal dimension to the sales pitch, and in fact starting off with that, I think is very critical. Right? Rather than just say, oh, this happened, something happened, and I think this is right. If you're able to narrate a personal incident that led you to creating a business, I think that will help you well. And then be very specific. What issue or problem does your product or service solve? Right? You may have competitors, but then again, if you already have competitors, how are you doing the same problem, solution to the problem differently in a better way? That's what I told you earlier. How are you doing it better than your competition? Right? You may have 10 competitors, but question is, why should the investor put money in your product or service? What are you doing differently in a better way? Right? So that is the second point. Highlight any successes that you've had, right? If you've been able to generate some revenue, right? Whom have you sold to? Who are your potential customers? Right? What are they looking for? Right? So highlight some successes you had. What is your target market? Right? What is your target market, and what are your plans to acquire customers or clients? How are you going to do that? Because without this, you're not going to be able to generate any revenue. And that goes back to the earlier discussion we had. You have to project your revenues. Right? So for that, you need to know what your target market is and how are you going to acquire customers or clients. Right? You need to have a detailed plan. Right? I'm going to pick up the phone, I'm going to buy emailing lists from people and then bombard them with emails. Right? So whatever the plan is, right? Be clear as to how you're going to acquire customers and what is the cost of acquiring those customers. Who's your competition, right? This is something we already talked about. Who's your competition? How is their growth being? What is their market share, right? If you're getting into a market where there's a single player who has 80% market share, people are going to be very skeptical about your ability to break into that market, right? You have a better chance of breaking into a market where there are lots of tiny players, where nobody has more than 2, 3, 5% market share. You're trying to break into a market where there's one player who has a huge market share. It's going to be very difficult because that person is going to have huge amounts of market power. Right? They can just do stuff, maybe unethical, but that will hurt your business. Right? Yesterday, 2 days back, some of us were discussing about what Coke and Pepsi used to do in the 80s, late 80s and early 90s, right? So Coke used to, what did they do? They just went out and bought crates of empty Pepsi bottles and just broke them up. Right? These are days when there were no plastic bottles. Everything came in glass bottles. So glass bottles they used to sell it, and then the vendor used to sell it, then get the bottles back and send it back to the company. They used to sterilize it, refill it and send it back. So what Coke did, they just went and bought crates of empty bottles of Pepsi and just went and broke all the bottles. So that affects the supply chain, the empty bottles going back to Pepsi for bottling. They were shocked, right? So the point is, these are unethical, but the whole idea is if you have a large player in the market, large competitor, they have the money to do this. You may say, they are wasting money. They don't look at it as wasting money. They are basically killing the competition. So if you have somebody who's already got 70-80% of the market share, it's going to be a very, very difficult segment to break into, just because that they could use their money power to kind of kill you. Right? So that is why it's important to understand what your competition is. Right? And of course, most important of all things, what is your revenue model and what are your financial projections? How do you expect to grow over time? And how much you expect to capture? What market share? Are you expecting 5%, 10%, right? Some idea, right? This is very important, and you need to spend sufficient amount of time thinking about these things. Who are all part of your team, right? So a lot of times people at early stage, you don't know whether the product is working, the service is working, right? So a lot of times people will invest just based on the people who are behind the business. They'll say, I like you, I like your passion, you are a sincere person, hardworking person. So you need to have a sense of who are all, right? The investors will always say who are all part of the team. Because a lot of times in the early stage startups, the investors are putting money based on who's behind the idea rather than the idea itself. Right? Not all the cases, but there could be significant number of cases where People are betting on the, investors are betting on the people behind the idea rather than the idea itself. Right? And what are your funding requirements? How much money do you need? Right? What do you need it for? Why are you asking for money? Is it for operational expenditure, capital expenditure, right? Like customer acquisition costs. What are you going to be using the money that you are raising for, right? And then what is your exit strategy? Right? How do you hope to, do you think you're going to be acquired, you're going to do an IPO, right? You start off and then you think one of like a Google or Facebook or somebody comes and acquires you, or you're going to go multiple stage VC funding and then eventually exit through an initial public offering. Right? Again, the last part might be very difficult to predict, but have some sense of what you hope for. Right? Do you hope to be acquired, or do you hope to kind of go through the entire process, life cycle of funding and then exit through an IPO? Right? Have some sense of what you're looking for. And so that's pretty much, I'm done in about a little over an hour, but that's pretty much what I have. Anything, any questions at all? Comments, thoughts? You guys are very quiet. I had smaller group last year, but I had a lot more questions. I know, it's Sunday afternoon and stuff like that. Yes, please.
Sir, not exactly a question, but it's a statement that we all should also work on improving the business environment.
Yeah, absolutely.
With special respect to the laws of the country.
Absolutely.
And with special reference to improving the subject of monopolies.
Yeah.
Like, we had a lot of discussion on consulting, legal aspects,
Correct,
etc., etc., etc.
Sure.
But I wonder, Vodafone and Airtel, they could not get a proper legal expert to write a common statement like what is the definition of a revenue.
Sure.
So for that reason, they might have to exit the business.
Yeah.
And the second point is that we are in a very advanced stage of society, very advanced stage of businesses. Now, government can make a simple rule what defines monopolies. No, it
But you have the Competition
very
Commission of India.
So it is very strict. So we have,
Yeah.
but it is not working. We had 32 telecom companies 3 years back. Right now we are down to 3,
Yeah.
and soon we might be down to 2 or 1. What kind of monopoly laws do we have if 32 companies, 29 have to exit the business, they have to shut down? So by all these means that these are all youngsters working on their ideas. Number one, work on your convictions. As Paul sir said, that work on your convictions. Do not over depend on your consultants. Okay? So they cannot simply tell you that what is a proper legal contract. If you know of the Vodafone and Idea story, so they depended on the big Price Waterhouse and all the big consultants. But those consultants could not simply tell that while you are signing the revenue deal with the government of India, what is the definition of, you have to clearly define the definition of revenue. So work on your convictions, work on your common sense, and work on improving the business environment, work with the government, work through professors like him. Now we have this conference coming up, this Punjab Summit on Investment.
Yeah,
So all the legal, the politicians will be there. We should make a point that these monopolies cannot be allowed to exist. What kind of emergency
That's
acts
because
we
of
have?
the spectrum fees is what is killing them, right? That is the reason these people are under severe stress.
No, that is
So
okay.
question is, should they have paid for, I don't know, maybe it's an offline discussion.
Once Airtel was in a position when he was having a monopoly.
Yeah.
Sir, what kind of monopoly?
That's, I think
There were
that's,
30 other companies.
I think we are digressing from
Now we
the.
are moving to a stage of monopoly. Yeah.
Sure.
The last 3 weeks, the children have been presenting.
Okay.
Today was the third time, and a lot of the children are facing trouble by estimating their own cost. And so they were, because that was one part on their slides which all of them messed up, and the numbers were completely haywire. And so we just request if you could, just take 2 minutes and tell them how the models are made. I mean, they couldn't gather how to get their expenses right, how to, is there a cost for, customer acquisition. These are words which are alien to them right now. So I think I just asked a couple of them that if specific to their businesses, if they can just, explain the business to you in 20 seconds, you can just help them out. So I think Mr. had a question, so we can just go with that.
Okay, so
you're doing this in one location? No, forget about Chandigarh, but are you doing it in one location in Chandigarh? Are you going to do multiple locations in Chandigarh? You're going to start it in one location in Chandigarh.
No, I plan to do all Chandigarh.
No, but look at it this way, you're doing desserts, right? So desserts, think of what Domino's does. They give 30-minute delivery guarantee, right? So depending on where your location is, the one location where you're going to be sending your desserts out from, do a 30-minute radius in terms of time. And then how many?
Given me an idea when I reached first that instead, so it's pre-ordered business.
Okay.
So give them a time slot where you would deliver instead of giving them a specific time.
Okay.
Give them like maybe 5 to 8 p.m.
Okay.
We deliver and then you deliver.
Okay.
So
The question is how far can you transport your dessert? Because if it's ice cream, you can't be sitting in sector 1 and be trying to be delivering
So
it
it's only
in
cakes
sector
and
8.
cupcakes as of
So that's what I want to know. When you said desserts, you're talking
Now
pastries.
till the business, we want to see the business works out and of course we will expand to all the
Sure, fair enough.
start
So,
with cakes and cupcakes.
And it is customized, so you just log onto a website, you tell them that I want a cupcake, this flavor, I want sprinkles, I want chocolate chips on it, I want a pink icing of strawberry flavor. That is the idea.
sure.
And then they, take 2 days to, make your dessert. And
So
then
you order it a couple of days in
Yes.
advance.
Yes. Maybe, and I don't know the times yet. I think she doesn't know it because she plans to operate from a home kitchen.
Walk into one of the pastry shops, see what their sales are.
Yeah.
Then walk into an oven fresh or an baker I'm assuming you're going to be a high-end market, so I don't know how much they sell on average day, how many cakes they sell, or at least what their revenue is, right? And then that will give you a starting point. Or even, what is the population of Tri-City area? I don't know that. So on average, how many people are having a birthday or anniversary on any given day? Usually those are the 2 days when you buy cakes. So I don't know. I think my suggestion is go talk to an oven fresh or a meat bakers or one of these big pastry shops, just bakery shops. Get a sense of how much cakes they sell. They say I'm thinking of a business idea. Don't tell them what it is. They may copy it. Because they're already making the cakes, right? So just get a sense of how much you sell. It's advantageous being a school student. So they may not even take you seriously, but just get a sense of how much you sell per day, how many cakes, and I'll give you a sense of how much, right? And then usually their market will be maybe like a 2-3 kilometer radius around where they are, and then you can see what the population roughly is, right? And then you say, right? You can, I don't know, you figure out what the radius is, what the delivery radius is. Yeah, so you may want to do something smaller, right? Because you want quality, you don't want to be giving so many cakes. Right? Yeah, quality, exactly. Right? So that would be the thing, right? Just go talk to local bakeries. I think that will give you a better sense of how much the revenues are. I don't know. Beyond that, this is a very difficult market to size. But I think talking to bakery will give you a good start. I don't know if that's helpful.
Maybe do a random survey as the pocket.
You can do that. You can also run surveys, right? Once you get some sense of what the revenues are, you say, well, you need to basically sell. Why is it better going to your website than going to like a oven fresh or a meat baker, right? The convenience of home delivery. I don't know if they do home delivery through Swiggy or Zomato.
And there'll be other people who would be running their
Correct.
kitchens as well. So that again is your competition.
Right? But I don't know, a lot of these places might be on Swiggy or Zomato. You need to see what that is. So that is already competition. Right? If these outlets are already selling through Zomato, Swiggy. But of course, they may not have the convenience of 2 days in advance order and all of that. But, so that will be a selling point. When they order online, you don't have to go anywhere. Order from the comfort of home. But then you need to have nice pictures.
Yeah, that's
Very important to have a live blog. So you'll have to figure out how I'm going to. That means you may have to make significant number of these cakes, take photos and post it. Right? That's a significant investment.
and And when you do that, you can invite all of us.
Yeah. Please do let me know. I'll help you finish off all the case.
Any other questions, students? Sorry, sir.
Sir, you mentioned that at early stage the easiest source of raising money is from family and friends.
Yeah.
So, what is that benchmark that they should offer as a return, or maybe the family should expect as a return? So, is it that there is some thumb rule, or there is some temporary?
Return, I don't know. At that stage, I wouldn't be promising any return. I mean, when you're doing bootstrapping, you haven't even shown that there is a revenue possibility. So you're just supporting a family.
For them to work out and show it to somebody, because nobody will give them money, like, anything. Even as a family member, as a parent, I would ask them that, show me some template. How do you pay it back? What is the calculations of them? So is there any,
You don't pay it back. You don't take it as a loan. You give it as equity. So there is no guaranteed payment. I mean, when you do family friends bootstrapping, you offer. I would offer equity rather than loan.
but even as a equity partner, somebody has expectation.
That's all. So see, I don't know. The bootstrapping stage is very important because it's very difficult to make these projections because proof of concept is not there. The very fact that your product is going to work or service is going to work, you've not had a single paisa at revenue. So you just have an idea, a passion, and a vision. So at that point is very difficult. That's why.
Grant.
Huh?
It would be kind of grant.
Yeah. It's not like you're investing in your kids' education as a paisa company. Investing in like their future. And that's the reason we say do bootstrapping. It's very difficult to say you will get your money back in X amount of time. Because you need to first maybe you can say that once you have your revenues, then tell me when you'll do it back. Until then, monitor your, I won't ask you when you do it.
Yeah, no, I think at that stage, sir, you just invest in the person and
Yeah, exactly.
I think at that stage.
Correct.
It's all about what kind of
Yeah.
What is the process of getting in touch with the incubation center, and what is the kind of screening that they do?
I don't know.
I just did one.
Huh?
I was just doing one for.
For Atal.
Yes. So the process basically is these are slightly more mature startups, right? So for example, they have the Atal Innovation Center over there, ISB. So generally, what they do is they have teams, right? They do the first round of sifting. As in they look, okay, these companies seem set. Then what they do is they reach out in the local ecosystem or pan-India basically, wherever they are. So they will reach out and then like I had a 1-hour interview with the startup, with the founders and the incubation team, I think. And then finally at the end, they just asked me for a recommendation. There are a bunch of parameters which I'm supposed to kind of give them. Pretty much what you're looking at. What is the team like? What is the product market fit? Is the team kind of, what is the market size they're addressing? So a bunch of questions. And then once that is done, I'm quite sure they'll have other filters inside. So once they do that, then the team over here finally sits down and negotiates and talks to the startup. Because he has one, Harit has one startup already over here basically. So he's been through the drill. But ISP has a slightly more rigorous process because again, the value add that they get is much larger also because the access that they get immediately is. A lot of the private ones or the ones outside might be a little more rigorous if I may say so. They might just kind of align. But the gist is it's a give and take kind of model. Because once you get into an incubation program also, that means you have to give time, effort. There's a lot involved in the startup period. So you have to be at a certain stage to kind of
What is the kind of stage that you're in?
it's early kind of where you kind of got a basic product market fit, product analysis, and you've slightly gone to market and seen there is interest. There is reasonable interest that people are willing to use your product or service or whatever.
I think we have about 5 or 6 startups right now.
Even the state governments, support into this. We are and we are being incubated by IIT Mandi. So, you can also approach some of the governments, for example, Himachal government is supporting startups, where we recommend them to the incubator, nearby incubators, and in Himachal there are around 7 incubators which are funded by ISB and state governments. and IIT Mandi is there, NIT Hamirpur is there, and the route is that you approach the state government, industry department, you have to pitch your idea, they assess it, evaluate it, and they further recommend it to the incubator. And you can also choose your incubator. You have to go to IIT Mandi or NIT or any other incubator. And then you also pitch finally at the incubator, and if they evaluate it okay, and they give you a chance for the incubation with funding also. You get money also. Around 25,000 per month is given by the department. So that is another process.
So these incubation cells basically guide the startup in their further journey.
Yes, they provide more of a space, infra, and a bit of mentoring and guidance also. That is the role of incubators.
One of the incubators will have office space. The one I saw in Bombay, the BSc, they had like one floor, open floor. They had on the sides they had like small meeting rooms, but all the startups were there in the middle.
Yes.
Two, three workstations for every startup. And they do
So
training
it's almost
sessions.
like a co-working space, but with
Co-working,
guidance.
yeah. It's,
But with
yeah,
guidance.
correct, yeah. It's just not, little more than just co-working space.
There are a lot of co-working space working with the private sector, like Chandigarh also. So there they have any improvement?
So there, see, the co-working will obviously come back in case that as a service they will give you. So if you, WeWork obviously is a big global example, but WeWork obviously pitches the community. Now there's 20,000-30,000 companies inside. They say don't go looking outside. So there could be a company which is doing software development, there is a company doing AI development. They say look inside, well, work within the community, and that's how you kind of help grow each other's business. There are numerous co-working spaces over there. Like you said, a lot of incubation places give money also. Again, going out of Dubai has a fantastic, so Dubai has real world problem. So I know Dubai gives mature startups around $150,000 to $200,000 simply to get to the stage where they say, okay, this is a real world problem. So like they have numerous malls over there, and now people are not doing it. So that's a problem that the state faces. So that they say, okay, and I know startups from Delhi have gone there and actually at least got to stage one.
And a lot of companies, right? I met two people in Barclays Bank in Bombay. So Barclays Bank actually funds startups. So and they have a space where all their funded startups sit. And basically they're saying if their startups are successful, then they take the technology in-house and start using it internally within Barclays. So a lot of these companies, fintech companies, a lot of the finance banks and all are investing in these technologies in-house. So they're willing to spend, maybe they spend on 10, 20 startup ideas that's potentially solve their internal problems and all. And maybe two of them are actually successful, but they do it. They have a nice office in Mumbai where they have these businesses sitting in.
And some also mentioned about Mudra scheme. I think Mudra at a very early stage is called a Shishu scheme. They have three categories: Shishu, Tarun, and Kishore. So under Shishu category, there is a provision of giving 50,000 only, by banks. And I think that is also a very useful tool. And banks do not ask for much of documentation. You just have to present a very simple business plan without any collateral, without any documentation, and they give it.
So we also at TYE Chandigarh, we work with STP at Mohali. So they're setting up a new incubation called Neuron. So there is a open challenge competition going on right now. Ritika can probably explain it about it. There is some prize money involved as well. But this one has a very rigorous registration form. Most of you might find that a little hard. But again, what we got is we got problem statements from real life institutes like Indian Oil, startup companies within Chandigarh. It might be a little high right now, but you can definitely take a look at it. If somebody feels they can kind of address it, there is no harm because they're not asking for.
So I'll just run you through very quickly on the Neuron website. So see, what they do is they address a problem. I mean, the startups have to address problem statements. You can view the problem statements here. So different companies have submitted their problem statements. Chandigarh International Airport, Vicky Movie, Department of Water Supply, Punjab, Infosys on facial recognition, Infosys on predictive individual health, PGI, Next. So a lot of corporates have submitted their own problem statements of what kind of problems they're facing in their daily day-to-day businesses, and they're not able to come up with a solution. So they've opened that part up to the public, up to they've opened it up to everybody. If anybody can come in and solve the problem. So this is what the program is all about. There is a timeline as well, and they do have a prize money of 1 lakh rupees first prize, and then 50,000 for second and 30,000 for third position. And they will also be giving up a free space, I believe. If it's not free, it will be subsidized by the government on per seat basis, and they will be able to help you out and having your own office for the next 6 months or 1 month at 1 year at TYE Mohali. So this is what the Neuron Challenge is, and yeah, sure.
Thank you, everyone. These are just a couple of points after the pitching sessions that we've heard for the last 3 weeks. The first one is that formatting. A lot of you did not get the formatting of your PPTs right. There was some child, I don't remember, I think in the first or the second session, when they presented, there was, the text on the screen we were not even able to see. So I think color combinations, I think that we need to make sure. Grammatical mistakes, everybody, a lot of text on one slide. Those are little things you all have to be very careful about. One of the major things that all of you did not do right, maybe because of high pressures or laziness or just casual attitude, was market research. I think all of you are unable to go to the market and understand and do your homework very well. That did you have any competitors? Was there somebody who was doing something already? And in case there was, I think it would have been a good idea if you would have mentioned that beforehand, that this is another company by this name which is doing this kind of a business. Plus, I think a lot of you did not do a lot of local homework. There is one thing sitting here and looking for other competitors on your mobile phone, but there is a different thing altogether. When you go to the market, there are actually people out there जिनके लिए आप problem solve कर रहे हो, to go and speak to them. So for example, in Ritika's case, he should have gone to at least 20 psychologists or to different sports people or connected with different children who are having this problem. He himself is a player. So these are little things that, all of you bungled on. So next time, whenever you're doing, even on the current pitches that you have, make sure that you do your market research very, very, very well. There should be nobody in the audience, unless it's a very few cases, they say, oh, there's already something like this coming up in the market, or there's already an app which is already there. So do your homework. It needs hours and hours of research on the net. Please go ahead and do it. It will be totally worth your time. Third, I think you all did not manage to get your problem statements right. A lot of your pitches when we were listening to, and this comes from all of us here, that we actually sometimes did not even understand what your business was. At least the statement was not very clear. Unless and until all of you came here and started speaking about it is when we understood what is the problem that you're trying to solve. So try and make it as crisp and short, and understand that there are people sitting in the audience who don't understand your business. You need to tell them in the simplest possible way, right? One of the other things, a lot of you did not get the names right. And some of you did not go to GoDaddy and check. Some of you did not get names at all. So that is another thing you need to take care of. Target audiences. I think it's only after conversations that you people decided, oh, ये मेरी target audience नहीं, मुझे तो इसको बेचना है, मुझे ये नहीं करना, मुझे वो नहीं करना. So next time when you're making a business plan, make sure that your target audience is absolutely clear. Because if you don't know who your target audience is, you don't even know whom you're selling to. So you will never be able to get your product or service right. Last one, revenues. I think we all bungled, but I'll give you a little, I'll cut you some slack for that, because you're all struggling trying to understand the math behind it, which I think Professor Saab's, session today would give you a good enough idea. And there are seniors sitting here, we're all there to help you. One thing I was a little surprised that none of you came back to us for help even before you submitted your PPTs. I was a little surprised. I was thinking that out of these 70 students in the WhatsApp group, at least 10-15 will come to us saying कि मैम ये नहीं समझ आया, सर ये नहीं समझ आया, वो नहीं पता चल रहा. But I was pleasantly surprised at your confidence. But I think we still need to get that bit right. So one little piece of advice for all of you: when you're not able to understand a problem, please reach out for help. This is what we are sitting here for. When you don't struggle with it, give it your best shot. If you don't understand it, come back to us for help. I think that's all that I had to say on behalf of all of us here.
I think
Hitesh
what
would like to
Ritika has already
add
conveyed,
something.
we'll put all these things into 4 perspectives. One is the financial perspective. I think Professor Ram has given a very good presentation on this, and that will benefit us a lot, right? Financial perspective. Second would be customer perspective. Third would be your process perspective, and fourth would be learning and development, right? So while doing the financial perspective, we'll give you a logic how we have to do those particular things related to your particular product or service, right? Thank you so much.
Alright, so I'll just have a minute before we do the final facilitation. Since parents are here, we just want to show what kind of things and efforts have gone from our side already. So we started, pitching in schools from July, and you will see we have called a lot of good speakers, a lot of presenters across Tri-City. So in September, we had 2 sessions on team building and ideation. And then we have had also, talks in October on business plan writing, business communication, and especially pitch decks by some of the very good people across that we have available in the ecosystem. Then we talked about Lean Canvas by Joseph Jude, the CTO of Net Solutions. We called him. That was a very light session by all the children. And then we also called EggNext CEO, who is also an IIT and IIM alumni, to talk to the kids and how they can perfect their pitching on. And of course, today's session by Professor Ram was even an eye-opener also on some of the facts, and I would definitely like to apply things. And one more by
Designing ma'am,
Deep
design
ma'am.
thinking.
Yes, I probably missed that from YouTube. So yes, there was one more. And then from November 10th onwards, we have passed the mic to the students, and they have been presenting to us for whatever things they have learned. We have been maintaining all the sessions on YouTube, so if you haven't looked at it already, there is a TYE Chandigarh YouTube page. Today's session as well will go there, and I've been recording that. So you can always go back and check what your peers have already and mentors have already told you. And towards the end, what I would suggest is we will be now talking to each of you. We have heard the pitches. Few are left. Last Sunday will be the last date when we'll be hearing those. And then we have to finalize the ones which actually think should go to the next step. And for the others, we will have a ceremonial end to the session. And for the ones that we shortlist, and if the sessions with US goes well, we will be then mentoring those for the next few months. And that would be in a formal classroom, but that will be the mentor. And that's it for the others. We will probably end the session soon. Is that okay? So you now need to kind of segregate out. You've already taken a lot of juice from the session. You've learned a lot. Now is your chance to actually see if you want to kind of sip it till the last, or you want to end it here and go back to examinations and dedicate most of your time there. All right. Thank you so much, and we can probably have a presentation, or if you want to add something.